Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. Thanks for being here. Doing something a little bit different today, and I want to talk about Warhammer Space Marine 2. For those of you who aren't familiar with Warhammer, don't worry, you're in good company. I read up a little bit about the lore and know enough to know that everything's as awful as it could be in this grimdark fantasy world. Everyone's at war with everyone and their mother, and good guys who fight for this thing aren't all that good, honestly. But I gotta say, the game is a ton of fun. I've missed playing third-person shooters, and for those of you who know me, know my favorite third-person shooter of all time was Ghost Recon Wildlands. Ubisoft, please make a new Ghost Recon game, and please don't make it like Breakpoint. Warhammer Space Marine 2 is a third-person story-driven game letting you play through the story of Lieutenant Demetrian Titus. What a great name. And this is following after all that's happened to him in the first game, Warhammer Space Marine. It's got a great campaign that you can play through in either solo or in co-op mode, while also having a really cool operations game mode very similar to the way that strikes work in Destiny 2. But we're not here for that, we're here for PvP. Admittedly, the PvP feels the least polished game mode in Space Marines 2, but that's not to say it's a bad thing. In fact, the PvP is really good. The developers over at Saber Interactive have an awesome foundation for PvP to build on, and a unique opportunity to really run with this game mode and attract more players. Especially we're in a time where third-person shooters are so few and far between. And really, let's be honest, first-person shooters feel so copy and paste. Is the Eternal War PvP game mode fun? Yes. Is it the most sophisticated PvP game mode of all time? No. It's rather simple and straightforward, but I think that's what makes it a good time. The classes feel unique and useful. Except Vanguard. Sorry Vanguard fans, I really hate this class. And the gameplay is fast and fun. I've spent a bit of time playing Eternal War, and here are 6 tips that I've come up with to help you make the most of this game mode. Alright, tip number 1 is play with your team. This tip is all about teamwork. Your teammates are usually outlined for you, and the maps are relatively push alongside your support guys like the bulwarks and the heavies. Take advantage of your mobility and their survivability to get in close on the enemy or the objective together. A 2v1 is always better than a 1v1. Numbers advantages here make a big difference, especially when you have teammates that have abilities that work very well together. Here's an example. Bulwarks are really good at tanking damage. If you're playing with a teammate, the enemy will likely attack your teammate first because your shield can absorb all incoming fire in front of you. While your teammate engages them, push in close and clean up with a plasma pistol or rush in with your power sword on the enemy. You're stronger when you're pushing in with your team. This leads me to my next tip, and that is play to your class's strengths. You'll see that each class is unique and offers something useful to your team. PvP lets you play in a 6v6 composition, and each team can have up to 2 of the same classes. Certain classes are way more effective when focusing on damage, while others are more focused on providing support to your team and helping to capture or play the objectives. The Assault class, for example, has a lot of mobility, but little in the way of any kind of range damage. If you get pushed by multiple enemies, it's really tough to hold your own. On the other hand, the Assault class's mobility make it the best for scouting ahead to see who's in the area and to make sure it's clear, or to surprise enemies when they're already engaging your teammates. This surprise hit-and-run tactic works really well when your team is already engaging the enemy in firefights or in melee combat. It's so satisfying to come crashing down on the top of your enemy's skulls with an electrified thunder hammer. Assaults hit hard and fast, so play to their strengths by timing your strikes and catching the enemy off guard. Tip number 3 is maintain situational awareness. I mentioned being aware of your team's positions by using the outlines on the screen. To add to this, if you see a teammate's outlines in a firing animation, or taking damage, or dodge rolling away from a location, there's a very good chance the enemy is nearby. If you see a death marker, it means your teammate died, and the enemy is very likely there. Quick tip, if you're playing the capture and control game mode, the objective has a countdown for how long it will remain active. It's good to push the objective and try to take control of it, but at the 10-second marker, the objective does move, and the game tells you where it's going to be. Take advantage of this by moving to the next objective and getting you and your team on there ASAP. Another way to exercise situational awareness is to take advantage of the inherent third-person peek. You don't need to expose your entire Space Marine's body to peek an angle. Instead, peek from behind cover to gain an advantage on an unsuspecting enemy. The Tactical class is probably the easiest and most straightforward to play in my opinion. He can use his Auspic's tactical scan ability to light up an area on the map and reveal enemies' positions for you and your team. Revealed enemies tend to panic, so take advantage of that with a well-timed flank or attack an objective from multiple angles with your team. Tip number 4. Use positioning to your advantage. Your positioning matters. Generally speaking, taking the high ground gives you the advantage 9 times out of 10. You can see where the enemy is coming from, you can shoot down towards your targets, and back way behind elevated cover. Need to get away? Drop to another floor and dodge roll away. There's little to no fall damage for Space Marines. Positioning, in my opinion, is just as important as good aim. This is where the Vanguard class shines. I did say before that I hate this class, and that it does feel useless. I hate it because it directly counters the Bulwark, which is my favorite class, and it sucks to get hooked from the side, only to have this bioengineered massive death come flying to you before you can really react, and the Vanguard stuns you. That's a pro tip, by the way, once you unlock the crack grenade. That being said, the Vanguard is just that, the perfect counter class. He can reposition quickly, get behind the enemy with his grapnel launcher, and effectively take the high ground almost any time he wants. He can also close the distance or create a gap to get away as needed. He's basically Spider-Man at this point. Often I've been able to hold an objective with my team until a Vanguard breaks my block and stuns me, giving his team the perfect opportunity to push or team shoot me. Honestly, it's a really good tactic and goes back to tip number 2, playing to a class's strength. For you Vanguard players out there, I hate you, but you're all pretty cool. Alright, now for tip number 5, which is play the objective. This might sound really obvious, but next to having a good time, you're playing PvP to win. In order to win, you need to know what the win condition is, and play for it. For the Annihilation game mode, it's TDM. Play for as many kills as you can, while keeping yourself and your team alive longer than the enemy. For the Capture and Control and Seize Ground game modes, it's about capturing and keeping control of the objectives longer than the enemy team. Winning the game mode means having little wins during the match, including winning your gunfights, objective captures, and getting those trades. Again, I know this sounds really obvious, but I want you to think about how your class and your team is working towards that win condition. Are you running around alone and pushing an objective by yourself, or your team pushing one at a time? That's not working towards the win condition. Are you and your team staying in the same area while the enemy is picking you off from your flanks? That's not working towards the win condition. This is where the Heavy class shines. The Heavy class is the perfect class for getting to and staying on the objective. While the Heavy's weapons can throw a lot of rounds downrange, I think he's best for locking down the objective. Yes, he can be good at Annihilation, but facing 2 Heavies on any objective game mode can be really tough for you and your team. Heavies are also really good for locking down map control. If an enemy player sees you holding an objective or an area on the map, they'll think twice about pushing you alone. Heavies also have the ability to pop their Iron Halo, which blocks out all ranged damage for a short period of time. Pro tip, teammates who stand behind your Iron Halo are also protected from incoming fire. Just keep an eye on the indicator. When it gets red, your shields are about to come down. This is the perfect ability to use when you're in a ranged gunfight with multiple enemies, and even better when you and your team are on the objective. Like Bulwarks, Heavies also have 4 armor, making them that much harder to kill than all the other classes. This is why I think Heavies are the perfect class for locking down the OBJ. Okay, moving on to the last tip, tip number 6. Be adaptable. A lot of players tend to stick with the same class throughout a match. If you're playing on a smaller map with lots of little corners, a long-range character like the Sniper might not be the best class to play. If you're on a big map with little to no cover, the Bulwark might struggle to close the gap between you and your enemy. You can always switch things up to help your team composition be that much better. All the classes do play well and feel great to play for the most part. Each one is viable and can shine when used in the right circumstances. Be adaptable enough to switch out and use the strengths of a class to go for the win. Use the loadout features to build out different types of loadouts for different maps. They are there for a reason. Snipers are a great example of being flexible and adaptable. At level 7, they unlock an SMG, which gives them the option to switch between the sniper rifle and the carbine. Later on, you get access to the stalker rifle and the La Fusée. Setting up these weapon loadouts will help you switch mid-match and adapt to the enemies you're playing against. and might just be the thing that turns a match around in your favor. The sniper class is already an amazing class with a very strong cloak ability. Using the cloak at the right time can get you a clean headshot or a flank. You can also use it to escape from danger when you need to, and I've been able to use it several times to successfully turn a losing gunfight into a winning one. Being able to switch between a long range weapon and a close quarters combat weapon is just the icing on the cake for this class. Alright guys, that wraps up this video. If you have any tips and tricks of your own, I'd like you to share them with the community in the comments below. I'd also love to hear what your favorite class is and why. Like I said before, I'm a big fan of the Bulwark for that sword and board feel. There's nothing like it. It just feels awesome to jump into a fight and take everybody down with that power sword. I really do appreciate you all taking the time to watch my videos, and if you like what I'm about, I'd love for you to subscribe to the channel. Remember, play for the win, and we'll see you in the next one.